Okay, look, listen. I helped my 8-year-old cousin yesterday. I helped with his math with rounding. Okay, don't say I'm bad at math.
So that means that your cap is at a 9-year-old level.
8-year-old, get it right. Okay, 8-year-old.
You were right at the cusp. You're like, I almost got this figured out. Okay, all right,
know
let's
what?
do this.
There was one rounding question. I was like, that's over my head, bud. I was like, round to the nearest 1,000. What does that even mean?
Don't say that publicly. All right, that's embarrassing.
Hello, fellow weebs and otakus. Welcome to another episode of Anime Fix, where you get your fix for all things anime. I'm Chase.
And I'm Lance. You sound so exhausted.
Hello, Lance.
Hello. I love the background you have going on right now.
The background is really, really nice. I wish the Wi-Fi was better and I didn't have to use my phone for Wi-Fi. It's real fantastic, but that's the trade-off you get with nature.
Yes, it is.
No technology, which is a good thing. Kind of disconnect a little bit, but podcast is number one and on my list of things that are most important. What are we talking about today, Lance?
We are doing a part 2 of Psycho-Pass.
And what did I didn't have time to watch?
You didn't have time to watch season 2.
Yeah, but we didn't say we have to watch season 2, right?
Right. We were gonna just continue talking about season 1, and then maybe some of season 2. I did not expect season 2 to be as good as it was.
Yeah, and you were. I remember us talking last time, and you were like, "I don't know if I don't want to watch season 2 because my brooding boyfriend is not going to be in it."
Yeah, and I was super ticked off because they replaced his sort of character type with another brooding guy. I just looked it up. Even a similar name, maybe not quite a similar name, but my favorite character, Kogami, and then this guy's name is Togane, and I was like, okay, come on, a similar name, somewhat similar name, brooding character.
They're not similar at all. One starts with a K, one starts with a T. You think all Asian names sound alike, right, Lance?
Oh, shut up. Don't even start that. Anyway, he came into the picture, kind of acted the same way. There was even a similar scene. So in season 1, there's a scene where Kogami is going all out in this combat situation with this android that has a holographic that makes it look like a human. And
Which one?
What do you mean?
Which part? You said Kogami or Togami?
Kogami.
Which episode is he fighting Android?
It's in the first half of season 1.
Okay.
I don't remember. I don't remember which episode.
Is it the shotgun dude?
Shotgun dude.
The hunter that's all robot.
Maybe, yeah. He's in like a dojo type scenario where there's mats everywhere and there's it's built for combat. And Kogami is going all out, and it even gets commented that he's fighting it on the hardest setting, right? Because he's got to keep his skills up.
Gosh, that's just some training, I think.
Yeah. No, it wasn't a real it was a training situation. Okay. No, yeah, not that shotgun dude with the 2 robotic dogs, not that creepy scenario
situation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, this is a training. But and then in season 2, this same character Togane, this season's sultry badass is also in a training session with a android with a holographic. I think it's even the same holographic, fighting it on the toughest setting. And it's like, okay. Well, I think come to find out, they didn't explicitly say this, but I think he was intentionally, which I kind of like this, he was intentionally behaving that way because I think he was trying to lure Asunomori in so to trust him more. By emulating,
Connor.
I don't know first names. I don't know names.
I mean, you got a lot of names down. Why is he trying to?
But yeah.
Why is he trying to lure
So
her
he's
in?
trying to make her. He's trying to paint her black. He's trying to paint her hue black. Season. Have you seen season 2? I forget.
I've watched the first 2 episodes, so I remember him. I think trying to do that, but I don't remember why he's trying to do that.
So, I guess there would be a couple of points of view of why. So come to find out that this character Togane, his mom, which I don't know if we could hardly call her his mom, maybe creator. So Togane was actually created in a lab to be a asymptomatic criminal.
Really?
Yeah. And his mom, his creator's mom, who led a research facility, we come to find out she is also an asymptomatic criminal, and so she gets invited by the Sybil system to become a member. And
like
Togane,
a part of the giant brain thing.
Yeah, part of the hive brain, and Togane is actually all he cares about is having his mother, and the idea of losing his mom actually does the opposite. So I guess he's created as an asymptomatic criminal, and then when he finds out his mom's leaving, he kills her so she can't leave him.
Oh,
right.
Wow. That's creepy.
But we come to find out that he actually has one of the highest crime coefficients of anybody. Several of the scans that he receives, he's like over 700.
And that's not too dangerous to, keep alive?
I guess. I mean, well, I see. I don't know. I imagine what I suspect is because his mom was part of the civil system, and this gets touched on later. But I bet his mom being part of the civil system intentionally downplayed his crime coefficient, or they just ignored it because he was such a useful enforcer. But yes, yeah, a couple of his scans, he's over 700. But
pretty high. Is that higher than anyone that we've seen before?
Yeah. In fact, the civil system, the chief, tells Akane, be careful around Togane. He has a ridiculously high crime coefficient. And this character, Togane, several of the inspectors that he's partnered with all turn black. Like, he takes them and then makes them latent criminals. That's his thing.
Oh, so that's his favorite thing to do?
Yes. And also, in sort of contrast, so like if season 1, Kogami and Makishima were contrasts of each other, in season 2, Togane and this season's overarching villain is also his contrast. So this villain cannot be detected. It's unique is he cannot be detected by the civil system.
Is that the same thing as the asymptomatic?
No, completely different. So
really,
what happened is there was a plane crash, and several people on the plane died except for one. But that one was in such a critical condition. So what happened was they used pieces of the other victims to fill
Tokyo Ghoul.
Kind of like Tokyo Ghoul, yep. So they rebuilt him. So now what happens, though, is because of that, the civil system doesn't see him as an individual person. It sees him as a bunch of people, and the civil system can't figure that out. So just completely ignores him.
How would you ignore him? I feel like that would be like even more reason to pay attention to him.
Yeah, I agree. But the idea of acknowledging that there's a failure in the system, I think, is a bigger deal than dealing with it until it becomes a problem. which eventually becomes a problem. He starts setting off bombs and creating all sorts of chaos. And
he's the main villain.
He's the main villain. What we learn is that there was a period of time where Japan, in specific Tokyo, I think it takes place in Tokyo, but Japan decided that they were going to have a different system other than Sybil, right? And Sybil didn't like that. And so there were several failures called the Season of Hell, where like traffic lights, train systems, all that stuff that was managed, planes, all had failures where a lot of people died. Oh. And that plane crash that caused our main villain to rise was part of that Season of Hell. So he is trying to get not only revenge against the Sybil system, but also against Togane, the Togane Foundation, because the Togane Foundation is the reason why the procedure that they used to save him was a patented procedure by the Togane Foundation, and they used this scenario.
What's the Togane Foundation?
New thing that we learned in this season. They're a biomedical. They don't explicitly state it, but I think they're like a biomedical research facility. What they have right now is they're issuing medicine that helps people manage their psychopaths.
So is the Togane system the same people that made Togane?
Yes.
Makes sense.
So our main villain is trying to get revenge against Sybil for the Season of Hell. He's also trying to get revenge against the Togane Foundation for creating him the way he was, and also they've done several other manipulative things. So like with the medicine, they're treating it as like a one-size-fits-all, and they don't. But it's not specific to any one individual. They're just, I think, the medicine just completely dulls you down. And what he does is he takes that medicine, and through a sense of the way he talks about it is through a sense of meditation and customizing the medicine to the individual, he's helping them maintain their psychopaths. But they're still able to maintain that while doing horrible things. So several of these people that are helping him try to take down Sybil, when you scan them with the Dominator, their psychopaths is staying low while they're killing people.
Oh, right. Nice. I mean, kind of like Makishima, right?
Kind of like Makishima, yeah.
Yeah. And this is the main villain you're talking about, right? Not Togane.
The main villain. Yep. Gotcha. With this season's over, if the first season was talking about how to evaluate an individual and what the morality of that is, the second season focuses on evaluating the morality of a group. Whereas an individual could be bad, but a group could be good, and both vice versa. There could be individual people within the group that are good, but the whole group could be bad. And how do you evaluate that and the distinction between the individual and the group?
It's pretty nice.
Ultimately, what happens at the end, and Akane figures this out with the help of Kogami appearing in the back of her mind, like we see him talking to her. And I was like, yeah, nice. Bring Kogami back.
Yeah, you got Kogami.
What the solution to the problem is that Sybil has to evaluate the group. The Sybil has to be open to the possibility of evaluating itself, because if it can't evaluate itself, then it's an imperfect system.
Gotcha.
And so Akane says, you have to do this if we're going to move forward. So she actually helps the villain get to the Sybil system.
Oh, really? And then the villain makes the Sybil system evaluate itself?
So Sybil decides we have agreed with agrees with Akane, evaluates itself, and goes, we will start purging members of the collective whose crime coefficients are too high. So it actually, some of the brains in that hive mind get removed by the system.
Does it make Sybil better, or you really don't know?
I mean, I think so because what we learned throughout this is that one of the members of the hive mind, the head of the Togami Foundation, the mother of
Yeah.
all of this season's sultry badass,
Mhm.
is the cause instead of is the cause of trying to is dealing with this problem specifically, right? And they're making questionable decisions throughout the season, and so yeah, I think it does make it better because there are certain individuals that are being removed that are having an input, right? Because like they're all
Yeah.
agreeing on one thing. If enough bad individuals are saying we should do it this way, right? It can overwrite the other group's decisions and head down a path that they don't want to do. So they have to constantly evaluate it. I think it's good that they're evaluating itself and removing bad segments of the hive mind.
Makes
At least
sense.
that's how it talks about how it makes it better. But when they do that, then they're able to evaluate the villain of season 2, and we come to find out his crime coefficient as a collective is over 400.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So then
and
they subdue him?
yeah, so well, even then, Akane, because we've seen throughout this how she has an ability to kill.
Yeah.
Even then, she had trouble killing him.
Oh, but she ended up did like hunting him
No,
down.
she didn't.
Really?
He, the Togane, the sultry badass, the replacement for Kogami,
Yeah.
shows up and is super obsessed. There's no way you can be pure than because he's tried the whole season to get Akane to her hue to turn black, and he's done horrible things to her. And even then, her crime coefficient, I think the highest we see it go is 80.
Really?
Yeah. So he's like, how dare you be? You can't be purer than my mother, right? So he goes to super, super obsessive. And our villain actually pushes Kane out of the way,
hmm
shoots at Togane, and Togane shoots at him. So they both kill each other.
Oh, so Togane died.
Yeah.
Oh. But you like Togane even though he was so mean to Akane?
No, I didn't like Togane at all. I hated him from the beginning. I hated him because he was a replacement for Kogami. I hated him for everything that he was doing. I did not like him at all from start to the end. It's a good thing I didn't because he was a main bad guy. I was
Yeah,
never
that's
let
true.
down by that. But no, the whole season I thought was really, really good.
Way
And
better than your
even with,
expectations.
yeah, definitely exceeded my expectations. Um, So, but that was kind of the general premise of the overall episode. I really love like, how each season has explored different aspects of what this dystopian future would be like, and how an individual and the group can be two separate things, um, and each of the characters how they come to terms with that. I thought it was very well done. How come you didn't finish past episode 2?
You mean like 5 years ago?
Sure, yeah. If you can remember that far back.
I think I started watching another anime. So like I finished season 1, I was like, this is a really good ending. And then like that whole ending sequence happened with like Akane being the main inspector and like the one dude becoming an enforcer, and I was like, how the turntables turn. And then I was like, you know what? This seems like enough for me, but let's see what season 2 has to hold. And I was like, well, this is a worse version of Kogame, and I think I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect to get past episode 2, but it really rose to the challenge. They reintroduced, remember in season 1, the professor who has a reputation of turning people's hues black just by engaging in philosophical discussion with them.
Yep.
He makes a return. He actually gets recruited by Akane to help find this season's bad guy.
Oh, really?
Who his name, by the way, I just remembered is Calmly.
Calmly?
That's Kareed. Yeah.
Calmly?
Yeah, his last name is Conway. Conway.
Conway?
Mhm.
Conway. Close enough.
But yeah, he gets recruited in there, and he is a nice addition. Um, he actually, we come to find out, he has self-isolated. So he is in the facility where they put people with high crime coefficients,
Oh yeah.
separated from society. He turns himself at the end of season 1. He turns himself in for helping Kogami.
Yeah.
Becomes isolated. Um, and a pretty nice. I mean, he's got all his books. He has comfortable place to sleep. So it's really doesn't seem like
is his crime coefficient over the limit?
I don't think we ever learn his crime coefficient. What we do learn is that as he's been self-isolated, his crime coefficient has come down.
That's good.
He still chooses to stay there.
And he's by himself. He's not with other inmates or anything. That's good.
His character is very reminiscent of like a Sherlock Holmes type, where he looks at you and like evaluates your everything about you, and he's able to make deductions based off. He's very. A lot of his characteristics and things he says are very similar to that type of person, but he's unique in that he, instead of being a detective, he approaches it more from an academic perspective, who just happens to have high deductive skills.
Okay.
He helps them try to track down Conway. So yeah, I think you should definitely take a look at season 2 when you get a chance.
Yeah, hopefully I can get past season episode 3. So, are you gonna watch the movie in season 3?
Well, there's several. So there's the movie.
There's several.
Yeah. So I remember that link I sent you.
Yeah, but there's only the movie left, and then the season 3.
No, there's other things in between those two. Let me pull
like
it up
OVA.
Here. What does that mean?
OVA. It's like a one shot to like tie up.
Yes.
So like say like a season ends on like a cliffhanger. Sometimes they end with an OVA, and that OVA will tie up any loose ends. And it's a 30-40 minute like episode, but it ties up everything else.
All right, so there's actually so we watched season 1, watched season 2, we have the movie to watch, and then we have 3 one-shots, or maybe they're 3 parts of the same one-shot. There's Psychopath Sinners of the System Case 1, Case 2, and Case 3. It all came out in 2019. And there's season 3 of Psychopaths in 2019. And then there's another movie that came out last year called First Inspector.
See, I couldn't even finish it anyways if I wanted to, back 5 years ago.
Yeah, because you stopped watching after season 2. Or
Episode 2. Do you like season 1 or do you like season 1 or season 2 better?
Ooh. I think I like season 1 better, but mostly that's because
of Kogami.
Not even just because of Kogami. Like it was something. It's kind of like that first time that newness feel.
Yeah.
Like season 2 is really really good. The newness, like the sort of the unique environment that they create, you can't re-experience learning about this new world again. Yeah. So I think that was definitely the biggest weakness of season 2 is I'm already familiar with everything. They introduced some new things, but the basics I got down. So other thing I did learn though in season 2 that I thought was strange is so they're dominators.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think this was a thing, but their dominators actually have a limit on how many on their bullets, like their decomposition bullets.
Yeah.
The limit.
How much is the limit?
Apparently high because they use.
Apparently high.
But they were in so this was a really just messed up scene, kind of uncomfortable. So the bad guy, Conway, so the short of it is he put out a mobile video game. The mobile video game connected to these military drones at this place where he was keeping his base, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the inspectors were closing in. this video game got launched, and so a bunch of citizens were playing the video game,
And they're
and
controlling the drones, attacking them,
they're
right?
actually controlling the drones. So what
I
they
feel like
thought
I've
they were
watched
what
season two, but
huh?
I feel like I've watched season two, but I forget like most of it. But I remember parts once you start talking about it.
Yeah, there was yeah. So these citizens were just going around playing this video game, and they were attacking the bad guys in the video game. But those bad guys were actually the inspectors and the enforcers, and they were killing them. And so we see this like it transitions between groups of people like, "Oh man, get him!" And then you see the inspectors and enforcers running for their lives as these military drones are chasing them. And I was
Yep.
just like, "Oh my god!" And they actually, when they were trying to put it down, our professor guy, he says, remove the holographic so the citizens can see what they've done.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, are you kidding? If you do that, you're gonna raise the cycle. We can't handle that. And he goes, showing them what they've done is a quicker way to put an end to this than just ceasing their access to the game.
Yeah.
So they do it, and the stress level of the whole of Japan just goes through the roof.
Did they stop
And
though?
so you know that they stopped.
They did.
Yeah, they did stop.
That's good.
Yeah, that whole scene was very terrifying because, like, you think about how many times you've played any type of game,
Hmm.
and first-person shooter or like a story, like an RPG. Um, you're attacking those, the bad guy in the game. Imagine if you learned that you weren't. This wasn't a video game character. This was an actual human life that you were. I thought that was
Yeah.
just really.
My psychopaths wouldn't move at all.
Let's talk about that. Do you think you would be an asymptomatic criminal?
No, not at all.
Do you think how high do you think your psychopaths would be?
I would like to say it'd be under 100.
Then that's good. That's within the same range as Akane.
Exactly. I'll be the worst version of Akane. I'll be 80.
You think because her so let me tell you one of the worst things that happened to her in season 2.
Yeah.
Togane killed her grandma.
On purpose?
Yes. On purpose.
Why?
No, the guy who takes pleasure in driving people to Hughes Black accidentally killed her grandmother. Yes,
How did he?
Yes, he,
How did he do it? Like, was she a bad guy, or was he just like walking down the street and was like, "Oh, there's Akane's grandma." Let's.
no. So he is part of trying to make her hue turn black. He kidnapped, tortured, and killed her grandmother.
Why didn't Akane like put him down then? At that point, did she find out or not?
She found out at the very end. So at the
At the
very
very
end,
end.
yeah. So when they were facing off, and you have Conway behind Akane, and you have Togani at the door. He comes in, tells her, so he's scanning her right with his dominator, and her crime coefficient super low. He tells her what he did to her grandmother, and you see her crime coefficient rise up to like 80 or 83.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, it was Conway who calmed her down, right?
Yeah.
And her crime coefficient lowered, and that's when Togane says, "You can't be purer than my mother." And so he goes to attack her, and Conway pushes her out of the way, and they both shoot their dominators at the same time.
I wonder why Kane not Kane, but Conway saved Akane.
So even though he is the overarching villain of this season, his primary focus, I think, so he asks this question throughout the whole thing: what color am I? Right? What color is my hue? Sybil can't tell him because Sybil refuses to see him as a group of people.
Mm.
So his whole focus throughout the whole season is to get Sybil to recognize him. Much like Makishima's whole focus, turns into both of them are trying to free people from Sybil, but it comes from a sense of Sybil just ignoring them.
Yeah.
And so his whole time he's trying to get Sybil to evaluate him as a person. And we finally do that. Sybil is willing to recognize itself as a group, so it now can recognize Conway as a group. But then comes up, this is what pauses. So Akane is about to take him in, and Conway says to her, and this might be an aspect that comes up in season 3, but he seems to lead the assumption that even though Sybil is the one doing the evaluation, it's in the hands of the person holding the Dominator.
Oh, that's true.
So even though Sybil, like from Akane's perspective, okay, so Conway is holding the Dominator at Sybil, and it sees it as 0, right? After Sybil has gone through and purged all the bad members.
Yep.
It sees Sybil as 0. But then Conway is like, you should point your Dominator at Sybil, because now it can't just be me evaluating; it has to be you evaluating it. So, but we never see what that happens. We never see Akane point the Dominator at Sybil. I didn't think about that. That maybe the score changes based on who's the one doing the scanning.
But do you think it depends on their score, or depends on if Sybil allows you to change the score?
I think everything is in the hands of Sybil. I don't think. See, I would need more of an in-universe explanation, because I can't see how because the Dominator is plugged directly into Sybil, so I don't see how the score could change based on who's pointing. Yeah,
it makes sense.
But I'm sure there's an in-universe explanation for it. But that's what pauses Akane from taking in Conway initially.
So this is a very big tangent side note, right? How far are you into SAO? Did you keep watching or not?
I am on episode 18.
Episode 18?
Yes.
Nice.
Season 1.
Season 1. So are you still in Alfheim?
Yes, I'm still in Alfheim. I haven't gotten past. I just learned that. God, how do you say his name?
Which one? Kirito?
Kirito.
Yeah. What do you mean? That's the main character. You're 18.
Yeah, but the last time I said his name, you made fun of me, and so.
Well, get it right. I won't make fun of you.
Fair enough. The main character, I'll just say that. The main character, is in. He's getting help from one of the characters or one of the other players in Alfheim. Come to find out that character or that player is his cousin. They don't know that. They don't know who the other person is.
Oh, he's the elf girl?
The elf girl, yeah. Fifi.
Technically sister.
I think her. Yeah. No, not technically sister. Cousin.
Sister. Yep.
Adoptive sister.
Adoptive sister. That's fine. You can say that. That's cool.
His aunt raised them both, and so
True.
They are cousins biologically. Raised brother and sister.
So you're technically in season 2. Technically.
I mean, if we're talking about story arcs, then yes, I'm in season 2.
Yeah, story arcs. Yeah. So Asuna is still asleep, right?
Yes.
Sure.
I mean, meet the creepy guy who's keeping her in a bird cage, thousands of miles in the air.
Why is it a bird cage though? It makes no sense. We can talk about this more on SAO episode, but I just thought I wanted to know how far you've gotten, or if you still plan to keep watching. Because I will keep watching. I know you don't like it.
I don't dislike it.
I think once you get to Gun Gale, it's gonna be so much better.
Okay.
For you.
So my biggest problem with SAO. Okay, I really liked the first story arc of season 1.
Yeah.
And I got upset that there was still so much to explore. I felt in that game.
Oh yeah, way more to explore.
Then why do they end it at episode 15? Just because it almost sounds, as a viewer, I would think did you get bored, lose out of things to write about,
The
or
author got
yeah, and so you decided to move on. And so the show isn't bad. I don't want to say the show is bad. I know that we've talked about this, and you said that there's a lot of public, or there's a lot of opinion about the show. Either you love it or you hate it. I do not think the show is bad. I think, though, personally, I am upset at the decision that they made to end so soon. I felt so.
So
the show's good.
They are redoing season 1 or story arc 1 through Asuna's perspective and giving more of a fleshed out view of each level because they skip a lot of levels.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're going to redo Asuna's version or view. It's coming out either this year or next year, and you're going to see her perspective through all the levels, and you're going to see each level.
But
until
why do I want to watch a player who enjoys playing in guilds? Okay, I'm a solo player, right? I play games by myself. I'm more identified.
He wasn't a solo player once he met Asuna.
He was always a solo player.
No, he wasn't. You can't be a solo player if you have a buddy, like a campaign person. I don't know what you call him.
It was a strategic. It was a strategic marriage, is what it was.
Strategic marriage.
In-game marriage.
I don't think there's any strategic going through Kirito's mind during that time.
What do you think when they had a baby? When they find that
you gotta watch this SAO parody. But you gotta finish the whole series though, because you won't understand a lot of it. But like, it's so funny because there's one part where they wake up and like Yuri's there, and then Asuna's like, "Can we keep it?" And like Yuri goes, "No, we don't have any kids." and then Asuna's like, "Well, we're not gonna do it anymore." And Kira's like, "Oh, we have a baby." But yeah, it's so weird when Yuri goes like, "Is this a thing? Is this the thing that happens in Japan? Babies just show up randomly and you keep them?"
It was just so out of and like come to find out, it's just an in-game piece or in-game. I guess NPC would be an NPC in the game.
An NPC with feelings.
An NPC with so the NPC was originally created to help characters with their emotions, help characters manage their emotions while playing the game.
Manage their hue,
manage their hue, because we're doing a big crossover between Psychopaths and.
We're not doing a lot of SAO, but I just wanted to see how far you were and if you're still invested, because I really care about the animes that I recommend to you and make sure that you like them, even if you don't like them. So I have so many more to recommend you, and I can't wait until you get into the romance side of the animes, because once you get into that, it's a whole new world. It's like a Disney song, a whole new world. Because I'm looking forward to it. No, they're actually better.
I will keep watching it. I'm invested in it. I am less invested in it than I was at the beginning.
That's fair.
I like a fleshed out story, and I feel like I'm just getting single serving. And maybe once I've completed the whole arc, I'll have a different opinion.
You will. Yeah, because the last season gives you that fulfilling full circle feeling. The last season, last arc.
I am definitely more invested now after finishing season 2 and consuming the rest of Psychopaths.
Yep. I bet.
Such an interesting. There's actually, so speaking of, so both of these are, I guess, would you qualify both of these as dystopian futures, or would you more qualify Psychopaths as a dystopian future?
Psychopaths, because SAO is a, what's the word for it? No, there's a word for people dragged into or transferring to another world. Isekai. It's called an isekai. So anytime.
Okay.
There's different not tropes, but genres of
styles.
anime. So
genres.
Styles. So an isekai is when you get transported to another world, either because you want to or against your will. Whereas dystopian future, kind of like Akira, is the same thing as psychopaths.
Okay.
Yep.
In the same vein of psychopaths being a dystopian future, I was because I was really curious, and so I was watching some videos on YouTube about dystopian futures, and I came across one that asked the question: are we in a dystopian future now?
Are we?
Well,
Do you think this
I'll
is a
say that.
dystopian future? There's trees behind me, Lance.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily just. There's trees. There's trees and psychopaths. There's a whole
That is fair.
fields of farmland.
That's fair. No one's out there though. One guy.
There's no one
making
out there
sure.
except for you too. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's other people out here with me.
but the video was an interesting video. I don't necessarily agree with all the points that the person who uploaded the video states in there, but it was an interesting question. I wanted to ask you: do you feel like we're in, like, take away the neon, take away the sort of like techno clothing style, right?
Yeah.
And like look at what a dystopian future is. Would you say? Because he brings up there. All right, so in the things that he brings up in the video, I'll give you some context. He brings up that there are 3 tropes that occur in most dystopian futures that we see in media. There is the huge wealth disparity between the ultra rich and the ultra poor.
Okay.
There is the oligarchy of so there's a few corporations that manage infinite amount of information or wealth.
There.
And then what was the third? So the third one was environmental. So he specifically brings up. Say what?
We don't care. Like, we don't care.
So talk about like climate change. I mean, you look at like the increase in fires that have been happening. You know, in I think last year or the year before, time is kind of lost on me. But in Australia, and then California, and then I think Greece right now, which I have to look into that.
Yeah.
Is Greece? Yeah. So Greece. So there's been an influx in the environment just seems to be. So these things, those are 3 tropes. Environmental. So he kind of put environmental and political unrest in the same sort of group. Just sort of situational occurrences. Few corporations controlling a mass amount of wealth and information, and the last one being the disparity in wealth between the ultra rich and I guess you could say that now you have lower class, middle class, and upper class to an extent are all one group, and then you have ultra upper class, the ultra wealthy.
Yeah. So I think there's 2 points to it. The first point I would like to make probably would be he's either nitpicking or making those things to fit his ideal. If that makes sense.
And that's what I thought. So that's what I thought too. Like that he was taking a lot of those things and like he was really narrowing.
Yeah. Here's my idea of what a dystopian future is. Here's the points that I want to make to fit my ideal. I think it's either that, or if you also think about any period in time can fit those 3 things, and you can say it's a dystopian future. Like even back like in the Roman Empire or whatever, right? Those 3 things, like there's definitely, people that control, there's different, classes, super wealthy and like the plebes. And then there's also like there's probably like I don't know history of the Roman Empire that much. I just picked it out of my head, but there's probably like people that control like making armor or making like food or making all that stuff. They control everything. That's not information. There's only like you pay for information, I think, in the same way. So I think overall you can, both of those concepts in my mind, you can pick and choose and make it fit your ideals.
I agree. I think, and what's interesting is in regards to the corporation thing, I think it's a natural progression. We always are going to move to a more central location naturally. because it's more efficient. Right? It's easier. It's for us to get all of our if we just have one choice, right, or one place to go to. Choice is a big stressor. I mean, you can talk about this from in sales. The more options that there are available to people, the more difficult it is to make that decision because you're so worried on what decision you want to make. So if you don't have very many options, which is generally what people prefer, it's a lot easier to manage. And so I think
that's why Apple does so well. There's not very many options.
Yeah. So if you scale out that from a corporate perspective, or all the way up to the whole corporation, it makes sense that we have so few companies that control so much because that's what we as people prefer.
Can you hear that?
No. Is that a bird chirping?
It's a bird about to attack. Well, there's a bunch of birds about to attack me.
Don't be a sissy.
I am.
Birds. Birds are your friends.
Birds. I don't know. I don't know if birds are my friends. I don't know. I'll be fine.
Yeah. So like that was my thought too, but it was just interesting. Like, a lot of those points are always going to, there's different points in history where we've always had those points.
Exactly.
But does that then mean that we're not in a dystopian future, or does that mean that we've just been in a dystopian future for so long and we haven't gotten to the clothing, the cool hoverboards and neon lights flashing on our shirts?
Not hoverboards. They're just on wheels.
Yeah. But is that just we've been in that sort of future for so long and we just don't realize it because we're there? Yeah.
No.
So what do you think a dystopian future, like if you were to looking at all the like Akira and Psychopaths and that and all the other cyberpunk themed,
I would say it will definitely happen either if there's a big natural disaster or if there's a nuclear war, because after that, that's like all the tropes of the animes that we've watched so far, like Akira, happened after that big explosion. It wasn't a natural disaster at all, but they played it off as like a nuclear explosion, but it was really Akira doing that, exploding all of Tokyo. In Psychopaths, there's a big like civil uprising or whatever, and they needed more order, so they made the civil system. I think
both of those things are happening right now. We're having several like wildfires all throughout the world, and we're also having several political unrest in the last year and a half.
There's political unrest every year, but if the whole world catches on fire, I will agree with you. But right now, it's only select places. So that's, I don't know. It is a lot hotter this year than last year's.
It is. What do you think, though? Like, what do you think a dystopian future for us would look like?
What do I think would look like?
Like, take our lives now, how we live, and then just fast forward. What do you think? What would make us go, oh, wow, we're in that dystopian future right now? What would make you think
dystopian or future? Or both?
Dystopian future. Dystopian. The dystopian present. What would make you think, oh, man, we're in a dystopian present?
Dystopian present, I would say no more checks. Checks are not a thing. Cash is not a thing. It's all online, either through Bitcoin or, just digital currency. Digital currency. I would say that. Flying cars, I think, is just a trope. I think eventually we'll get there. Being able to travel freely to other planets, but that's like really far in the future. I think the digital currency is a big one for me, and not having access to any cash. Or once we get rid of coins, I think I'll say we're in the future. I hate coins. I don't know why coins are a thing.
No, they're actively working on the U.S. is actively working on a digital currency.
How many times I have coins in my pocket I don't know what to do with? Ridiculous.
What? I don't know.
They're heavy.
Put them in a jar. Just put them in a jar.
They're heavy to make
take
noise.
them to a Coinstar and then cash them in.
Are there even Coinstars left? I remember going to one of
Yeah.
those in the 1990s with my mom.
Yes, they're still left.
Don't they charge you for that though?
Yeah, a ridiculous fee. But if you think
That's
about
ridiculous. I'll just get the stuff from the bank and like put them in the rolls.
do you really want to go through that? Do you really want to go through and roll all those coins?
I mean, if it saves me $2,
They're not
yeah.
going to. It saves you how? I think it's like a 10% fee.
Yeah, ridiculous. Just ridiculous. This is what happens when I have to pay a machine to do the work that I can do. That's a dystopian future right there.
It takes less than 5 minutes for that Coinstar to count all that money. It's going to take you probably an hour to count the same amount of money.
Why are you saying me like I'm bad at math? I know I am, but why are you saying me?
Because you, not only are you bad at math, but you will be distracted
you know
by the birds flying by. And
okay, look, listen. I helped my 8-year-old cousin yesterday. I helped with his math with rounding. Okay, don't say I'm bad at math.
That means that your cap is at a 9-year-old level.
8-year-old, get it right. Okay, 8-year-old.
You were right at the cusp. You're like, I almost got this figured out. Okay, all right,
you know
let's
what?
do this.
There was one rounding question. I was like, that's over my head, bud. I was like, round to the nearest 1,000. What does that even mean?
Don't say that publicly. All right, that's embarrassing.
I'm gonna use this as the snippet for the beginning part.
But yeah, I definitely don't think we're in a dystopian future now. No. But I think it's a dystopian present. But I do think that we're I think right now we're at a crossroads. There is a group of people working towards one direction, and there's another group of people working towards another direction. And which direction society will follow because like you brought up digital currency probably being the biggest thing that would separate our present now from a dystopian future. And you have yes, sir. I will answer your raised hand question. So.
I let you finish. That's fine. That's what she said. Go and finish, and I'll say my piece.
We are at a point right now. So we've had decentralized digital currency for a few years now. I know recently the U.S. government, well, China within the last year has been talking about doing a digital currency, and I know the U.S. has discussed doing a digital currency in response to several banks having their own stablecoin currency, their own version of digital currency. So the government, the U.S. government, is working towards that, or in talks about doing that right now. So I think that we're at a point right now where we're either going to stay on the decentralized path, or we will go down the centralized path, and then depending on which way we go, will tell us whether we're going to be. Because I think if it's a decentralized currency, I don't think a dystopian future would happen, because not one party would control the money, right? It would be completely open. If we go down the centralized path, like China is trying to do, because I believe they banned Bitcoin usage.
Oh, they did.
I read that. Now I'm probably gonna after this go check that to make sure that I'm not just spouting misinformation. But I believe that they did do that, and so that happens, and Bitcoin can be used in China. And if the U.S. does something similar, where we have our own digital currency, I think that could definitely tip the scale one way or the other. So
yeah. So
that's my piece.
Quick thing before we end, because we're getting really close. I would say iRobot, I think, kind of paints it perfectly for me. Autonomous vehicles, like once everything is autonomous and like you have the choice to drive, but everyone chooses like to just ride because you can work or do whatever or eat whatever. That is a big thing. And then like having robots to like where you can, they can take a lot of the work off of a lot of the manual labor, like cleaning your house and like all that stuff off of everything.
I'm gonna bounce off that real quick before
Sure.
we end.
You're
So you brought up two things from that are actually
Yeah.
happening right now.
Yeah.
So the autonomous vehicle thing is sort of not. I mean,
Yep. Autonomous vehicles. That's where I got the
are
idea.
happening right now, but also another a company that's in that space who's also making a robot right now is Tesla.
Tesla's making a robot.
So very recently, they announced that they are working on a humanoid robot that has the same smarts as their car built into it.
Really? So so Tesla is they're putting the Tesla like autonomous stuff into their robots.
Yep.
That's cool. I know that.
And now robots have been around for a few years. Like there's Boston Dynamics is a big.
Oh yeah, I see all those.
Yeah.
I thought it was CGI when I first saw it. It's not.
No, it's not. But if you're talking about like iRobot, they are making a robot. And if you go to their site, you could find it. They have a model, like a 3D model of their design. Whether it'll be that way in the future, I don't know. But yeah, they make autonomous vehicles, and they're working on making a humanoid robot. So like,
Nice.
it matches up with what you said in iRobot. Yeah, I'm both of those things, and they're all coming from one company.
Makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
I think that wraps it up for this episode. We're a little bit over an hour now. What we're going to talk about next week, or are we going to talk next week since you have really big plans?
I think we'll talk next week. I think
so?
Probably.
You're going to have time? Should we tell your wife that? That you're going to have time next week?
I'm gonna have time. I'm gonna have time. We have Monday.
We'll make time.
We can do Monday.
Monday?
Yeah. Monday's a holiday.
We can do Monday. Monday's a holiday. What's Monday? Labor Day?
I think so.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's Labor Day. But yeah, I know I'm off on Monday.
Okay. Big boy jobs.
Yes.
All right. What do you want to talk about then? Or do you want to like try to figure it out later? I feel like if we don't figure it out now, we won't figure it out later.
You know what? Since I'm already working through it, we could do SAO.
Oh yeah, SAO. Super excited. Well, you got to get a little bit farther with it because like I want to talk about my favorite part.
Well, I just finished season 2. I can finish season 1 by next week.
Wait, you just finished season 2? I thought you said you haven't.
No, not of SAO, of Psychopaths.
Oh, gotcha.
I can get through season 1 of SAO by next week.
All right, sounds
Unlike
good.
you, who can't ever get through a season of anything and watch the 20-minute recap
you know what?
before we record.
I've recently just watched all of SAO, so we'll be fine. Okay, it's all fresh in my mind. Plus, I've watched it multiple times.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk about SAO next time. Alrighty.
Bye.